Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Mahaperiyava Sharanam. Shri Soundarya Lahari, explanation of verse 16. Kavindranam chetah kamala vana bala taparuchim bhajante ye santah katichi daruna meva bhavati virinchi preyasyaha taruna tara shringara lahari gabhirabhir vagbhihi vidadhati satam ranjana mami. Verse 11 describes Ambal's Sri Chakram in detail. In verse 12, Adi Shankara Bhagavad Padar attempts to describe Ambal's beauty, but then even best of poets were unable to describe Ambal's beauty, as her beauty is completely known only to her consort Kameshwara. In verse 13, an old man who is extremely unpleasant to look at is pursued by young women, and this happens only because of Ambal's Karuna Kataksham, her blessing through the corner of her eye. Shloka 14 has a comparison between the rays, chakras and the 6 seasons. Verse 15 has an interesting description of Ambikai's form. She who is pure as autumnal moonlight has a beautiful gem-studded crown on the mass of her twisted hair, Jata, whose hands symbolize granting of boon and protection from fear, holding pure white crystal beads and book. A bhakta who prays to this form of Ambikai is sure to be bestowed with eloquence that is sweeter than honey, milk and grape. Verse 16 describes golden red colored form of Ambikai. Let us look at the Padachedam and then detailed explanation. Kavindranam chetah kamala vana bala atapa ruchim bhajante ye santah katichit arunam eva bhavatim virinchi preyasyaha taruna tara shringara lahari gabhirabhihi vagbhihi vidadhati satam ranjanam ami. Kavindranam chetah kamala vana bala atapa ruchim. Kavindranam chetah, chetah mind, Kavindranam the best of poets, the minds of the best of poets. And there is a beautiful comparison here, resembles Kamala Vana, a cluster of lotus flowers. The minds of the best or greatest of poets is like that of a lotus cluster. Bala Atapa Ruchim. To that lotus cluster, Ambigai is like Bala Atapa Ruchim, the light of the morning sun. Lotus blooms when it looks at sun. Sunlight brings a lot of joy to lotus in such a way that it ends up blooming in joy. Similarly, minds of great poets that resemble lotus cluster light up or brighten up looking at Ambal's beauty or Ambal's Varnam color, which is similar to that of light of morning sun. Bhajante ye santah kati chit arunam eva bhavati. Bhajante, bhajati means worship. Ye santah, who worship Ambikai? Katichit ye santah. Santah, good people. Just a few good people worship Ambikai. Only those who have done some punya, good deeds in previous births, even get an opportunity to pray to Ambikai, as we have seen in verse 1. And how do they pray to her? Thinking or calling her Arunam eva bhavatim. They are directly addressing her as Arunam. You are as beautiful, as bright, as lovely as the red dawn itself. Surya Bhagavan, sun, is said to be traveling in a chariot, and the chariot is led by the charioteer Aruna, who is red colored. Just before the sunrise, the golden red that we look at is called as Arunodayam, the subtle red dawn that is so beautiful to look at. So those few good men worship Ambigai as red dawn herself. And what blessing do they get when they worship Ambigai as Aruna? That is described in the next two lines. Virinchi preyasyaha tarunatara shringara lahari. Virinchi, Brahmadeva, preyasyaha, the one who is dear to or the beloved of Brahmadeva, denoting Saraswati Devi. Tarunatara Shringara Lahari. And how is Saraswati Devi to look at? She is fresh, actually fresher, ever fresh, with a wave of poetic sentiment of love. Shringara Lahari. She is in deep love with Brahmadeva, indicating Shringara Rasam. And through her blessing, Gabhirabhihi Vagbhihi Vidadhati Satam Ranjanam Ami. The bhaktas who pray to this form of Ambigai, Aruna, get the blessing of Saraswati Devi, who is deep into the wave of sentiment of love. And because of that, by profound words, their speech, Vidadhati, they give, Ranjanam Ami Satam, they give to good men a lot of joy, Ranjanam, or pleasure, happiness. To the lotus cluster like minds of the best of poets, Ambar is the light of the morning sun. Those few good men who worship Ambigai as red dawn itself have an opportunity to get the blessing of Saraswati Devi, who is dear to Brahmadeva. And because of that blessing, they give aesthetic pleasure to good men by profound words, which is filled with a fresher wave of sentiment of love that directly emanates from Saraswati Devi, Vagdevi. In the previous shloka, after mentioning Vagdevi, who is white complexioned and is of sattvic nature, Rajasic aspect is described here as in deep red color. Before sunrise, the eastern sky is red as Arunodaya, the rise of redness. The sadhu Satpurushas get complete blessing of Ambigai, through which they obtain the skill of composing poetry. In fact, there are many poets who have had Ambigai's blessings, and the blessings can be seen in the richness and the sweetness of the poems that they have composed. One such example is Mahakavi Kalidasa, who had the blessing of Kali Devi. He was one of the important poets of King Bhoja in Ujjaini. Kalidasa is known for his simile Upama and also Shringara Rasa, the profound beauty of love that is described in his works. Once, Bhojaraja stated one half of a verse and stated whoever completes the verse would be granted gifts. Bhojaraja stated, Kusume kusumotpattihi shruyate na cha drishyate. Blooming of flower in a flower has only been heard and not seen. To which Mahakavi Kalidasa continued and concluded saying, Bale tava mukham bhoje drishtam indivara dvayam. Ambigai Parashakti, whose face resembles lotus flower, also has two beautiful eyes that also resemble lotus flower. So two lotus flowers rising from a lotus. It was simply due to Ambigai's Paripurna Anugraham, complete blessings, Kalidasa was able to compose Beautiful verses that touch our heart even today when we read them. Kavindranam Chetaha Kamalavana Bala Atapa Ruchim. The minds of the best of poets is like a lotus cluster, and to that cluster, Ambigai Parashakti is the light of the morning sun. Bhajante ye santaha katichit arunam eva bhavati. Those few good men who worship you as red dawn itself. Birinchi preyasyaha tarunatara shringara lahari. The wave of poetic sentiment of love which is ever fresher, like that of the beloved of Virinchi, Brahmadeva, indicating goddess Saraswati. Gabhirabhihi Vagbhihi Vidadhati Satam Ranjanam Ami. These few bhaktas are able to give pleasure, happiness through their profound, sweet words. To the lotus cluster like minds of the best of poets, Parashakti is the light of the morning sun, making the lotus cluster bloom in happiness. Those few good men, few bhaktas who worship Ambigai as red dawn itself, have her complete blessings through which they give aesthetic pleasure, happiness to other good men through their profound words, which is like a fresher wave of sentiment of love emanating from the beloved of Brahmadeva herself, indicating Saraswati Devi. The corresponding namas from Lalita Sahasranamam. Dhyana Shlokam in fact starts with Sinduraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Mauli Sphurat. Similarly, Arunam Karuna Tarangi Dakshim, indicating the red dawn color of Ambigai. Kala Lapa, she whose talk is artful. Kavya Kala, she who is the art of writing. Sarvaruna, she who has light reddish color of the dawn in all her aspects. Vagvadini, she who uses words with great effect in arguments. Shringara Rasa Sampurna, she who bestows Shringara Rasam on bhaktas. This shloka can be chanted for powerful eloquence. Thus concludes the explanation of verse 16 of Soundarya Lahari. Sarvam Krishnarpanamastu. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Mahaperiyava Sharanam. Jai Jai Shankara. Hara Hara Shankara.